Alright guys, I want to talk to you a little bit about polishing this wing here. I don't know if you can see the reflection in there of the light. Should be reflecting down here somewhere. And it's not bad. This is a pretty decent looking wing, but we're going to make it look a lot nicer by a little bit of sanding and polishing. So one place you have to be careful of are these pinked edges all around each panel. What I'm going to do is just tape them off. I've already got the long ones done. There's the short one here. And this is a little something I've discovered from doing this for a while. It can save you a lot of time. What will happen is you sand and polish, you can get these edges and actually take the paint right off of them. So this helps a lot. It's not going to totally prevent it, but it's going to help from getting the paint off those edges. One of the other things I've kind of discovered along the way, when I started sanding this paint on other projects, I was using 600 grit and then going to 1,000, 1,500, and eventually 2,000. And once you sand it with a coarser grit, it leaves scratches. So what the finer grits do then is try to remove the scratches left by the coarser ones. What I found is if you do an okay job of getting the spray paint on, and this isn't too bad, there's a little bit of orange peel, but I'm okay with that, that you can start with a much finer grit. So what I'm starting with here today is 1,500. I'm going to do 2 applications of the sandpaper, one 1,500, the next is going to be 2,000. So we got some 1,500 grit wet sandpaper wrapped around a little sponge, just a kitchen sponge, nothing special, and we start sanding. So get a cup of coffee. This is going to take a few minutes. On this airplane there's an aluminum D-cell, wraps around to right there, and that's about where my paint line is. You have to be a little careful around that edge too. You don't want to sand through it, but you definitely have to get that edge of the paint between the two colors sanded off. You can, I don't know if you can hear that, that's that paint edge right there. I don't like that, so I want to get that sanded off. Nice part about the tape is you can go right over it. You're not worried about that edge as much. These little corners down here take a little bit extra time. I realize this isn't too exciting. Already I can feel the difference in the sandpaper. It's going much smoother. I'm not hearing as much of those dust specks. It's taken off some of the orange peel from the paint left by the sprayer. Every now and then give it a good rinse, remove some of the residue, gives a little more lubrication on the paint. Starting to feel pretty smooth now. has that aluminum D-cell underneath it. You can hear that clanking away. I'm going to get around here and get the leading edge. How's your coffee coming? So that'll do it for the 1500. I'm just going to rinse the sponge out, give it a good squeeze, try to mop up some of this stuff. There's always a little bit of sanding grit that's left. And if you don't get it off, then it's just going to continue to scratch the paint up even when you use a finer sandpaper. So soak it up a little bit with the sponge. That seems to be good enough. Now the 2000 grit. Just wrap it around our sponge. Plenty of water. And if you like the 1500, you thought that was interesting, you're going to love the 2000. Pretty cool, huh? I'm using a moderate amount of pressure actually, especially with the 2000. You're not going to do a lot of damage with the 2000, but you can over a rivet head or the pinked edges. But other than that, you're really not going to sand through anything. And I'm trying to get the scratches out that the 1500 put in. I admit 1500 and 2000 grit sound pretty fine, especially to the woodworkers among us. But to the automotive finisher guys, it's kind of the world they live in, maybe even finer. My buddy Tom says, why don't you just flip the paper over and use the back side? It's probably rougher. He might be right. So you probably noticed that we're not getting under the tape and might be wondering, what do we do about those areas? I'll show you when it's time to buff. Normally, just the buffing alone is enough to get the areas with the tape. And you will see a difference in the shine. There'll be a little more orange peel on those areas, but I think it still looks okay. Just about done with this section. Let's call that good enough. I don't think I mentioned on this segment that this is just Sherwin-Williams latex paint. It's their high gloss latex, comes in a variety of standard colors, plus they can mix it in any color under the sun. Had really good luck with them on another airplane that wasn't finished with latex. I took some of the inspection covers off the airplane that had the two colors from the airplane on it, took them down to Sherwin-Williams, and they did a spot-on match. I did some touch-up areas on the airplane plus some wheel pants that I put on it, and it's just a perfect match. So one of the cool things about latex in addition to being non-toxic and extremely cheap comparatively, this whole airplane is going to cost me less than $150. Well, maybe even less than $100 for the entire paint job. But it's non-toxic, available locally, no shipping cost and hazardous material cost involved. And as you're going to see here in just a few minutes, I think it'll give you a finish that you might be happy with. Still drinking that coffee? This is part of my aerobic workout plan also. Now that seems pretty good. I'm going to give that a try. It's just using the sponge. Clean off some of that stuff. Paper towels, mop up the mess. There we go.